The vast emptiness of space shimmered as the Galactic Council's scout ship emerged from hyperspace, its gleaming hull reflecting Earth's blue glow. Inside the bridge, Commander Tay leaned forward, his scaled fingers tapping thoughtfully against the console. He'd spent decades studying primitive worlds, but something about this Earth felt different. "Interesting," he murmured, watching the sensor readings. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they've advanced remarkably fast." His second-in-command, Officer Sung, looked skeptical. "Yet another backwater planet. What makes these humans worth our time?" Commander Tay pointed to the historical archives they'd intercepted from Earth's own transmissions. "Look at their history. Constant warfare, yet they claim to value peace above all else. The Vraxian Empire will find this fascinating." The Vraxians had ruled a quarter of the galaxy through military might. Finding potential warrior allies was their primary mission, though they disguised it as peaceful contact. Earth's governments reacted with predictable shock when the massive ship appeared in orbit. After the initial panic subsided, they assembled a delegation led by diplomats and scientists. The Vraxians insisted on meeting on neutral ground, an abandoned oil rig in the Pacific Ocean, retrofitted for the historic encounter. As the human delegation arrived by helicopter, hidden Vraxian scanners analyzed their physiology. The results puzzled the alien scientists. "Commander, these readings can't be right," the chief scientist reported. "Their endurance levels exceed anything we've seen. Their bodies can heal from injuries that would kill most species, and their pain tolerance is extraordinary." Tay nodded, slowly. "Continue gathering data." The first meeting began with formal introductions. Dr. Lee stepped forward as Earth's chief diplomat, extending a hand in the universal gesture of peace. "Welcome to Earth. We hope this marks the beginning of friendship between our worlds." Commander Tay performed the traditional Vraxian greeting, studying the humans carefully. They seemed soft, emotional, hardly the warriors their history suggested. Perhaps their combat potential had been exaggerated. That illusion shattered 30 minutes into the meeting. The attack came without warning. A rival faction called the Meridians had tracked the Vraxian ship, hoping to disrupt any alliance. 6 Meridian soldiers materialized on the platform, weapons drawn. Before the Vraxian security team could react, Dr. Lee's assistant, a quiet man named Jin who had barely spoken during the meeting, moved with startling speed. He tackled 2 diplomats to the ground just as energy blasts scorched the wall behind them. A young woman from the human science team grabbed a metal pipe and deflected a shot meant for Commander Tay's head. What happened next astonished the Vraxians. The humans, supposedly a peaceful diplomatic team, transformed instantly. They didn't flee or freeze. They coordinated without words. 3 formed a protective circle around the wounded while others improvised weapons from their surroundings. A gray-haired human professor used his belt to create a makeshift sling that disabled a Meridian soldier. Officer Sung took a blast to his shoulder, purple blood seeping through his uniform. A human medic named Hyun immediately pressed her jacket against the wound despite the ongoing firefight, using her own body as a shield. "Stay with me," she told Sung calmly, as if getting shot at was an everyday occurrence for her. "The bleeding isn't arterial. You'll be fine." The skirmish lasted only minutes before Vraxian reinforcements arrived, but the damage was done, not to the facility, but to the Vraxians' understanding of humans. Later, aboard the ship, Commander Tay reviewed the security footage with his officers. "These aren't diplomats who learned to fight," he said quietly. "These are fighters who learned diplomacy." The medical officer disagreed. "Not quite, Commander. What we witnessed wasn't military training. It was something more primal. The human called Hyun has no combat record. She's a medical researcher. Yet she risked her life for Officer Sung without hesitation." Commander Tay replayed the footage, watching the humans move. They protected each other and us with equal determination. "No hierarchy of value based on species. A tactical error," another officer suggested. "Or something we don't understand yet," Tay countered. The humans had requested a second meeting despite the attack. Rather than being frightened away, They seemed more determined to establish relations. Their message specifically asked after Officer Sung's health, genuine concern, not political posturing. As the Vraxian ship maintained orbit, Commander Tay prepared his report to the High Command. He included all the scan data on human physiology, their remarkable stamina, their efficient healing, their resilience to environmental extremes. But the final paragraph contained his personal observation. The humans display warrior reflexes without warrior indoctrination. They fight not because they love battle, but because they will do whatever necessary to protect. We believed we were searching for the perfect warrior race. We may have found something far more valuable and far more dangerous. As Earth's lights glowed below, Commander Tay made his decision. The Vraxian Empire needed these humans as allies before someone else claimed them first. The question was whether the humans would recognize their own potential, or if they even understood what made them special in a galaxy full of dedicated warriors. The first contact had only just begun, and already everything was changing. The Meridian attack changed everything. What should have been months of cautious diplomacy accelerated into urgent talks after news reached Earth that 3 more Vraxian colonies had fallen under Meridian assault. Commander Tay's superiors wasted no time authorizing a formal alliance, proposal that Admiral Kim looked out of place in the gleaming conference room aboard the Vraxian flagship. Her simple blue uniform contrasted with the ornate battle armor of the alien officers surrounding her. At 62, she'd spent more years commanding peacekeeping missions than combat operations. But the president had insisted on sending someone who wouldn't be seduced by alien military technology. "Your proposal is generous," she said, reviewing, the holographic terms floating between them. "But Earth isn't ready to commit our forces at this scale." Commander Tay leaned forward. "The Meridians are a threat to all sentient life. They don't seek conquest, they seek extermination." "I understand the danger," Kim replied, "but rushing into full military integration without proper preparation would be disastrous for both our peoples." They eventually reached a compromise, a limited joint defense force with a small contingent of human volunteers for training exercises. As Admiral Kim departed, Officer Sung approached Commander Tay. "She negotiates like someone who doesn't realize the strength of her position," Sung observed. Tay watched the human shuttle grow smaller against Earth's blue backdrop, or like someone who understands power better than we do. The training exercises began 2 weeks later on a remote Vraxian moon base. The facility had been designed to test elite warriors in punishing environments. Thin atmosphere, crushing gravity, extreme temperature fluctuations. The Vraxians expected the humans to struggle with the harsh conditions. They were wrong. Again, the Vraxian drill instructor barked as 30 human volunteers finished the obstacle course for the 3rd time. Even the youngest Vraxian cadets lay, exhausted after their first attempt, but the humans kept going. A stocky man named Jun crossed the finish line first, helping a younger teammate through the final barrier. When asked why he didn't maximize his personal time by finishing alone, he seemed confused by the question. "We complete the mission together or not at all," he said simply. In the observation deck, the Vraxian High Command watched with growing interest. "Their endurance is unmatched," General Bach remarked. "And they adapt to new situations faster than our battle simulators can recalibrate." "It's not just physical," added the chief military scientist. "They solve problems differently. Where our troops apply force, humans find unexpected paths." The exercises continued for weeks. Humans learned to operate Vraxian weaponry with surprising speed. What they lacked in raw strength, they made up for in creativity. During a Capture the Flag simulation, a human team led by Lieutenant Park defeated Vraxian special forces by using the environment in ways the aliens never considered, reflecting targeting lasers off water surfaces, using sonic weapons to trigger small avalanches, communicating with subtle hand signals instead of detectable transmissions. Back on Earth, Admiral Kim received disturbing intelligence. Accessing a classified Vraxian database, her team discovered humanity had been categorized as a Class 1 warrior species. Other documents revealed plans to gradually integrate Earth fully into the Vraxian military hierarchy. "They see us as weapons," she told her senior staff. not allies. Meanwhile, the Vraxians were developing new combat doctrines centered around human capabilities. General Bach authorized the creation of mixed units, placing humans in key positions where their unique abilities would multiply Vraxian effectiveness. During a training break, Lieutenant Park sat with a Vraxian squad leader named Rock, sharing a meal of synthesized proteins. "Why did you volunteer?" Rock asked. "For glory, for advancement?" Park smiled slightly. "My grandfather was a refugee. I grew up on his stories about people who fought to protect others who couldn't protect themselves. That's why most of us are here." Rock seemed confused. "But you fight so effectively. The way you disarmed 3 opponents yesterday, that comes from warrior breeding." "I was a dance instructor before joining the military," Park replied. "Those moves came from traditional performances, not combat training." Across the base, Admiral Kim arrived unannounced for an inspection. Commander Tay greeted her formally, but tension hung between them. "I want to see the neural mapping lab," she said without preamble. Tay hesitated. "That area is restricted to the very people you're mapping," she finished. "Take me there now, or our agreement ends today." The lab contained dozens of holographic human brains, each highlighting different regions during simulated combat scenarios. Admiral Kim walked slowly between the displays, her expression hardening. "You're trying to isolate what makes us effective fighters," she said. "To replicate it." Commander Tay didn't deny it. "Wouldn't you do the same?" "The difference," Kim replied, "is that you're looking in the wrong place." She pointed to a brain scan showing intense activity during a rescue operation. "This isn't showing battle rage. It's showing empathy, connection, the very things your assessments dismiss as weaknesses." "Our data shows." "Your data shows what you want to see," she interrupted. "You think humans are natural warriors because we excel at combat. You've missed what actually makes us dangerous." She turned to face him fully. "We don't fight well because we love fighting. We fight well because we'll do anything to protect what we love." An alarm blared through the facility. The Meridians had found them. As they rushed toward the command center, Admiral Kim allowed herself a grim smile. Now, the Vraxians would see the difference between warriors and protectors, and why one was infinitely more dangerous than the other. The Meridian attacks grew bolder by the day. 3 more Vraxian colony worlds fell in rapid succession, their defenses overwhelmed by new Meridian battle tactics. The Galactic Council declared a state of emergency, and suddenly Earth found itself on the front lines of an interstellar war few humans had even comprehended 2 months earlier. Admiral Kim stood before the United Nations Security Council, her expression grave as she presented the latest battle reports. The Meridians have adapted their strategies specifically to counter Vraxian defenses. Without immediate intervention, 2 more populated systems will fall by the end of the week. "And what exactly are we supposed to do about that?" asked the French representative. "Our most advanced ships can barely reach Mars. The Vraxians are offering transport and weapons," Kim replied. "They need our troops, not our technology." After heated debate, the Council authorized the first human expeditionary force, 3,000 volunteers drawn from military forces worldwide. They departed Earth aboard massive Vraxian carriers, many leaving messages for families who wondered if they'd ever return. The first major engagement came at Helios 7, a mining colony under Meridian siege. The human forces deployed alongside Vraxian heavy infantry, their first true combat operation together. The Vraxians expected the humans to follow established military protocols. Instead, the humans improvised constantly, adapting to changing battlefield conditions faster than either side anticipated. Combat footage spread rapidly across the galaxy. One video showed a squad of humans continuing to fight despite injuries that would have incapacitated Vraxian soldiers. Another captured a human medic performing emergency surgery under fire. The most viewed recording showed a human sergeant carrying a wounded Vraxian, twice her size, through enemy lines, using nothing but determination and adrenaline to accomplish what should have been physically impossible. In the Vraxian High Command, General Bach reviewed the battle statistics with growing excitement. "These humans are everything we hoped for. he told his war council. Perfect warriors who never surrender, never retreat. His chief strategist looked less convinced. They're disobeying direct orders, sir. They're prioritizing rescue operations over tactical objectives. And yet they're achieving both, Bach replied. They just do it their way. The real test came at Proxima Station, a vital supply hub connecting 3 sectors of Vraxian space. The Meridians committed a massive fleet to taking the station, knowing its capture would cripple Vraxian supply lines. The station's regular garrison had been depleted, leaving only 200 Vraxian troops and a company of 60 humans to defend it until reinforcements could arrive. The battle lasted 3 days. The humans rotated sleep shifts, fought through exhaustion, and held defensive positions long after the Vraxians thought them lost. But it was Captain Park's actions on the 3rd day that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. The Meridians had breached the lower levels, releasing toxic gas into sections housing wounded soldiers. The evacuation order came immediately. Abandon the lower decks, seal the hatches, save those who could still fight. Standard Vraxian protocol. Captain Park ignored the order. He grabbed an emergency breathing apparatus designed for Vraxian physiology. It would provide maybe 15 minutes of partial protection for a human, and plunged into the contaminated zone. Officer Sung, monitoring from the command center, watched in disbelief as Park's life signs fluctuated wildly on the tracking system. He's killing himself, Sung muttered. For what purpose? The answer came 40 minutes later when Park emerged from the sealed section, his skin blistered and lungs damaged, carrying 3 unconscious Vraxian soldiers over his shoulders and back. He collapsed immediately, refusing medical attention, until the aliens had been treated. The gas affects you worse than us, he rasped to the medics trying to help him. Help them first. As footage of Park's rescue spread, the Vraxian military celebrated what they saw as the ultimate warrior spirit, willingness to endure anything to complete a mission. What they failed to understand was that Park had redefined the mission. Him saving lives was the objective. The battle position was secondary. When Park regained consciousness in the medical bay 3 days later, he found himself surrounded by Vraxian officers, including General Bach himself. Your actions have inspired troops across 3 sectors, Bach informed him. We've incorporated your tactics into our new combat manuals. Park, still weak from chemical exposure, looked confused. What tactics? Supreme sacrifice for victory, Bach explained proudly. Enduring maximum pain to defeat the enemy. Park shook his head slightly, wincing at the movement. That's not why I went back. To prove your warrior superiority, then? No. Park's voice was barely audible. They had families, pictures in their quarters, someone waiting for them to come home. I couldn't leave them to die. The Vraxian officers exchanged glances, clearly not understanding. Their culture celebrated warriors who died gloriously in battle. The concept of risking everything to prevent death, enemy or ally, was foreign to them. As Park drifted back to sleep, Officer Sung remained by his bedside, troubled by a growing realization. The humans weren't fighting this war the way the Vraxians expected. They followed their own moral compass, one that sometimes aligned with Vraxian objectives, but was fundamentally different in motivation. The misunderstanding ran deep. The Vraxians saw perfect warriors where the humans saw reluctant protectors. As the war escalated and human forces became more integral to the Vraxian military strategy, this fundamental disconnect would only grow, until something forced both sides to confront the truth about what really made humans dangerous in war. And that reckoning was coming faster than anyone realized. 6 months into the war, the patterns could no longer be ignored. Human forces consistently achieved objectives that Vraxian commanders deemed impossible, but rarely in the ways expected. They'd developed a reputation across Vraxian space, fearsome in battle, yet strangely gentle in victory. Admiral Kim requested an emergency meeting with Commander Han, who had replaced the injured Commander Tay as the Vraxian liaison to Earth forces. They met aboard the flagship Eternal Vigilance in orbit around a contested planet, where fresh fighting had just ended. We need to talk about your military's understanding of humans, Admiral Kim said without preamble, tossing a data tablet onto the conference table. This new combat doctrine you've issued is based on fundamental misunderstandings. Commander Han's expression remained neutral, though the slight twitch of his facial ridges betrayed annoyance. Our analysis is based on months of battlefield data. Humans have proven themselves superior warriors in every engagement. That's exactly the problem, Kim replied. You keep using that word, warriors, as if fighting is what defines us. She activated the tablet, projecting images from recent battles. Look at these. Your reports focus on how many enemies our troops eliminated. But that's not where we excel. The hologram shifted to show human medics treating wounded Meridian prisoners, engineers restoring power to civilian shelters, and soldiers sharing rations with refugee children. This is what you're missing, Kim continued. We don't win because we're better at violence. We win because we're fighting for something beyond victory. Han's posture stiffened. Sentiment has no place in warfare. Doesn't it? Kim challenged. Him. Your own historical records show that your empire has fought the same enemies for generations. Endless wars, endless casualties. Have you ever asked why? She pulled up Earth's historical archives. Our most destructive wars ended not through superior firepower, but through rebuilding, reconciliation, and addressing the root causes of conflict. Human idealism, Han dismissed. Impractical in galactic warfare. Kim sighed and tried a different approach. Let me show you something. The next display showed comparative casualty rates. Vraxian forces typically suffered 30% casualties in successful operations. Human-led missions averaged only 12% and, notably, had a far higher survival rate for the wounded. Your combat medicine focused on battlefield patch-ups, keeping fighters functional until the battle ends. Our human medical teams have completely revolutionized your approach. We don't just repair damage, we prevent it where possible and fully restore function afterward. Han studied the numbers, his skepticism visibly wavering. Did you know, Kim continued, that the design for your new battlefield stabilization units came from a human doctor who never held a weapon? Dr. Cho developed those techniques while treating childhood injuries in disaster zones. His work has saved more Vraxian lives than any new weapon. Before Han could respond, an urgent communication interrupted them. The Ceridonian Alliance, 3, previously neutral species with significant military power, had just agreed to join the war against the Meridians. Impossible, Han said. We've been negotiating with them for decades. They've always refused to take sides. They didn't agree to join the Vraxians, Kim clarified. They agreed to join the human-led coalition. The recording showed a human diplomatic team led by a quiet, unassuming woman named Sue, who had no military rank at all. She had accomplished in 3 weeks what Vraxian diplomatic corps couldn't achieve in 30 years. How? Han demanded. She didn't threaten them. She listened to them, Kim explained. The Ceridonians feared being absorbed into the Vraxian military hierarchy after the war. Our team proposed a mutual defense agreement instead of conquest or assimilation. They'll maintain independence but contribute to the common defense. Han fell silent, his worldview visibly shaken. Commander, Kim said more gently, there's something you need to understand about Earth's history. Our greatest military innovations didn't come from those who glorified war. They came from those desperate to end it. She showed him images from Earth's bloodiest conflicts. These soldiers weren't fighting because they loved battle. They fought because they saw no other way to protect what they valued. The moment they found a better path, most laid down their weapons gladly. The evidence was becoming overwhelming. Human-influenced parts of the war effort showed not just different tactics but different outcomes. Lower civilian casualties, more stable post-battle regions, fewer insurgencies after main forces withdrew. Your people categorized us as the perfect warrior race, Kim said. But that fundamental misunderstanding undermines everything you hope to learn from us. Humans don't excel at war because we love fighting. We excel because we hate it so much. We'll do anything to end it quickly and prevent it from happening again. Han stared at the battle footage playing silently on the screen. a human soldier comforting a terrified Vraxian child while gunfire echoed in the background. "If not warriors," he asked finally, "then what are you?" "We're builders who learned to fight, healers who learned to kill, teachers who learned to destroy," Kim answered. "Every human skill you admire on the battlefield exists because we needed it for something else first." A notification flashed on Han's console. The Meridians had launched another offensive. As both commanders hurried to respond to the crisis, something had fundamentally shifted between them. For the first time, Han looked at Admiral Kim not as a useful military asset from a warrior race, but as something he had no name for in his language. Someone who fought fiercely not because she valued combat, but precisely because she didn't. And that revelation would change everything about how this war would end. The war had reached its tipping point. After 18 months of brutal conflict across dozens of star systems, both the Vraxian Empire and the Meridian Collective had suffered devastating losses. Now the final confrontation loomed in the contested Helios sector, where the Meridians had concentrated their remaining forces around a massive space station that controlled trade routes to 3 quadrants. The Vraxian High Command summoned their top officers to the War Council aboard the dreadnought Supreme Victory. The massive holographic display showed the Meridian defenses, formidable, but not impenetrable. General Bach outlined the attack plan with confidence. "Our main assault force will strike here." He indicated the station's primary weapon arrays. "Human shock troops will lead the charge, followed by Vraxian heavy infantry. Intelligence suggests the Meridians have committed 90% of their remaining fleet to this position." Admiral Kim studied the battle plan silently, her expression growing increasingly troubled. When Bach finished, all eyes turned to her for the human force's approval. "No," she said simply. A stunned silence filled the war room. "Admiral Kim," General Bach began, his voice dangerously low, "this plan has been approved by the highest levels of—" "I understand that," Kim interrupted, "but I won't send human forces into a frontal assault when there are civilians aboard." "That station," Commander Han stepped forward. "Scans indicate approximately 20,000 non-combatants. Regrettable casualties, but nothing." Kim cut him off. "There's another way. We form a defensive perimeter here and here." She, manipulated the holographic display, creating safe evacuation corridors for civilians. Meanwhile, a small diplomatic team attempts negotiation one final time. General Bach laughed without humor. "Diplomacy? Now? The Meridians have rejected 17 peace proposals." 18, Kim corrected. "But they've never faced losing everything before, and they've never heard our terms directly from us." The argument raged for hours. Eventually, a compromise emerged. The evacuation corridors would be established, but if diplomacy failed after 24 hours, the attack would proceed as planned. No one believed the Meridians would negotiate this. The meeting dispersed. Commander Han approached Admiral Kim privately. "The Meridian leadership will kill your diplomats on sight," he warned. Kim nodded. "That's why I'm going myself." Han stared at her. "You must not. You're too valuable." "Everyone is valuable, Commander," she replied quietly. "That's what you still don't understand about us." The evacuation operation began immediately. Human ships positioned themselves along the designated corridors, broadcasting on all frequencies that non-combatants would be granted safe passage. The Vraxians expected few takers. The Meridians had always been willing to use their own people as shields, yet within hours, the first civilian ships emerged from the station. Hundreds at first, then thousands of refugees fled through the human-protected corridors. The Meridian military made no move to stop them. They needed every soldier for the coming battle. Meanwhile, Admiral Kim's diplomatic shuttle approached the station under a flag of truce. To everyone's shock, they were granted docking permission. The Meridian Supreme Commander, a being known only as Void, had agreed to hear the human proposal. As negotiations began inside the station, the Vraxian forces watched with growing impatience. Few believed anything would come of it. 23 hours, General Bach announced grimly as the deadline approached. "Prepare for attack." Then, without warning, the diplomacy channel flared to life. Admiral Kim's voice came through, tense but controlled. The Meridians have refused terms. All diplomatic personnel are withdrawing. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 wasn't the full-scale assault the Vraxians had planned. Instead, as Kim's shuttle raced away from the station, a single human science vessel moved into position. Dr. Jin, AE, physicist who had been working secretly throughout the war, activated the device his team had developed. Not a weapon of mass destruction, but something entirely different. A pulse of energy washed over the Meridian command station. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then communication channels exploded with confusion as Meridian ships began standing down or moving erratically. "What did you do?" Commander Han demanded as Admiral Kim's shuttle docked with the flagship. "Targeted neurological disruption," she explained, looking exhausted but relieved. "Non-lethal, it temporarily disables the Meridian hierarchical communication system without harming individuals. Their command structure has collapsed, but no one is dead." Within hours, the Meridian fleet surrendered. Their leadership, unable to maintain the psychic control that kept their forces unified, had no choice. The war that had cost millions of lives ended not with glorious battle, but with a whimper. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council convened to determine the new balance of power. The Vraxian Empire had expected to absorb conquered Meridian territories, but the human delegation proposed a different solution: a buffer zone of independent systems, protected by a multi-species peacekeeping force. Commander Tay, recovered from his injuries and promoted for his service, addressed the council in the final session. "When we first encountered humans, we classified them as the perfect warrior race," he began. "We believed their capacity for violence made them ideal. Allies in war, we were wrong." He displayed footage from the conflict. Humans fighting with unmatched determination, but also humans building hospitals in war zones, teaching former enemies to farm, establishing schools on devastated planets. Humans excel at war, not because they are natural killers, but because they will perfect any skill, even those they despise, to protect what they value. Their strength was never in their capacity for violence, but in what they're willing to endure to prevent it. The Council voted unanimously to reclassify humanity. No longer labeled as Class 1 warrior species, Earth's designation now read, the Perfect Protectors. As Admiral Kim prepared to return to Earth with the first ships heading home, Commander Han presented her with an ancient Vraxian symbol, a curved blade transformed into a tool. "Our ancestors believed that the strongest metal was that which had survived battle," he told her. "Perhaps the strongest piece will be the one forged by those who understand war's true cost." Kim accepted the gift with a tired smile. "I hope we never have to prove our value in battle again." "As do I," Han agreed. "Though I fear the galaxy will always need protectors." The stars seemed brighter somehow as the Earth ships broke orbit, carrying warriors who had never wanted to fight, heading home to build something better than victory.